Okay, is this on? Yeah, it's on. And with this, the clock runs down, and here we go. Everybody, welcome to a nice bit of Thursday night fun for you. It is round 14 of the Assist Tier 1 tier of the IIRL Racing League. We are now in Suzuka, definitely a favourite amongst all the drivers. It's what they call a proper driver's circuit with tricky corners, so satisfying to get everything right. But it's fast and it's flowing. It's the only one, it's the only track on the calendar to actually have a figure of 8. So there you go. Thank you all so much for joining. So let's see who's already said some stuff in the comments. Our race, very, very good to see you again, mate. It's, yeah, busy old times for me, busy times. But I'm happy to be back streaming as part of the IRL channel. Always a fun time. And, we are now in Suzuka, and off the dawn is what it could be in real life Formula 1. The most hyped up finale we've had in such a long time in Abu Dhabi. But we'll get onto that later. Because, as you will see on your screens right now, guys, it is raining. So this will put forward quite an interesting challenge. So this is one where typically what you would do, you would just load up the cars with as much fuel as you can, and then you would just go out and just try to find the grip. Whereas you need to go out there, find the grip, and effectively say, just find just more and more grip where you can put the power down, because that really makes a difference between a wet qualifying session. Higgins 1477, thank you so much for following, and that takes the IRL League much closer to 130 to 150 followers, so now on 132. So already a massive leap up for when I last streamed. So thank you all very much who's been following the APS League so far. And do get in touch with us, and hopefully if you'd like to race a part of this league, then it'll be great to see obviously what we can do for you there. So please get in touch with us there. As we'll go on board with Jake Sharrock as he warms himself up in the AlphaTauri. We already have a spinner, and the back of that is the McLaren of IRL Hyper. Hyper said APS. I don't know, I felt like I must have said it accidentally, I'm sorry. So yeah, I said accidentally APS, sorry, it's old habit. So it was, for those of you who don't know, APS was named this league where we joined, but we've gone under a rebrand since then to IIRL. So apologies for the little mix up there. I mean, that's like probably taking the Aston Martin team but now calling it Racing Point or Jordan or whatever name it's falled under. Yep, it's the wrong name indeed, so apologies for that. So there we have the first time lap of the session is going to come from Jake Sharrock in the AlphaTauri. Narrow's clearly having a good time in the chat as well. So, let's ride on board with the Alpha Tower and let's see what kind of lines he can take through this. One thing I find is quite tricky, this particular track. It's relatively nice, keeps it in high gear. TD, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. Great to see you as always, and lovely work that you've been doing as part of the stewarding for 82. Hopefully soon we can get you back racing. As Jake Sharrock takes a very steady line, it has to be said, through his in the corners there. We have another yellow flag, which I think was one of the Mercedes. Must have lost a little bit of time. But with 19 people on the grid now, with 19 people, we're only down just one person. And it's very much... I think the only one that we're listing, I think I'll figure that out once I get round to it later. But it's full wet conditions in what is Honda's hunting ground, their home turf, whatever, of Japan. And the race in Abu Dhabi will actually be the last race in which we will have Honda Power, the name Honda rather, in Formula 1. Until they eventually decide to rejoin and then quit a few years later. As he keeps it almost flat through the 130R. Comes down into the final chicane. Quite careful with the lines. Back end steps out a little bit, but he comes round to the corner. And that's the benchmark time. It's a 1 minute 42.5. So look around, let's see who else is coming to finish the lap. Philosopher's out on his. We have Lecarus and the Ferrari running the number that belonged to Pasta Maldonado. Price to Bees is in the 13th place, and Hyper completes the time of 1 minute 44.8, so he'll certainly be looking to go out again. As John B, as kind of expected, has gone to the top of the timesheets with 1 minute 40.8, once again proving that this man really is some form of alien. Platty goes second with a 1 minute 41.6, as we're right on board with the other Alpine of TRT Lucifer. So he's running the number 62, very close to George Russell in terms of numbers, but what is he going to do? And it's not a great time, has to be said. And it looks like Lecarus has had a moment in the Ferrari, just tries hard to stay out of the McLaren's way and stays out of the Alpine as well. He moves to the other side of the track, so it's a good on-track etiquette, I would say, from the Ferrari. We have SLR Connor now. I think there's a regular racer actually in the no assist here, but what does he do across the line? It's a 42.1. Very interesting lap. Sun God has completed his time. Who else is out? And I think it's Sam Keane out in the Red Bull. Run the number 66. What goes to P6, and oh, it looks like Jake Sharrock has retired from the session. He must have crashed out, so he would take no further part in this qualifying session. Oh, and Mr. Wiggles is staying out of the way. It almost looked like a little bit of debris came off there. Does he have debris? No, he's got a front wing, so that should be absolutely fine there. Who is still out on a time? Platty comes into the pits. There's Alex49. Thank you so much for following. That's another follower for APS, so thank you all so much. Price to Bees is currently third, but he's 3/10 down on his time. Yeah, and I think he's backed out. He's backed out of his lap. Stays out of the way of the Aston Martin behind him, which is thankfully Sean Gregory is only on an out lap. There will be all sorts of problems if he was on his time lap, and you'll see the cone has gone. saying. So, with Gregory on his timed lap. Yes, I really need to stop saying APS. I do apologise, guys. As what's happened in Sector 1, it looks like one of the Alpines has run wide. Thankfully, it won't get in the Aston Martin's way. As we'll see, a little bit tentative across there, and the Ferrari stays out of the way, but Sean Gregory's invalidated his time by going off the curb there. And Appy has just had a massive crash in the Haas, which isn't too far from what happens in real Formula 1, so it's unlike Saudi Arabia, they won't be throwing a million VSCs our way. Let's see what happens in the race. So there we go. Appy is now out. He didn't even get around to setting a time, so commiserations to him. Sure, he'll be back to pounce in the 82 race when that happens on Sunday. Oh, Rio now goes 7th with a 42.8. Well, certainly a huge crash indeed. That was one that, if it were real life, certainly would put some hairs on your chest, I'll tell you that. Oh, and TRT Lucifer has also crashed, it seems. He's now retired from the session, so there we have a crazy session there for Alpine. So 3 drivers already have already crashed out due to the conditions. We see the Red Bull coming out, which I believe, I don't know whether he's actually coming into the pits. No, he can't be coming into the pits. Yep, it's Sam Ken coming on his out lap. As APS Greg is going to be warming up for his lap. SLR Connor is done 5 tenths up from his best, but he's backed off of his time. Iros J is 2.5 tenths down. So I'm just going to run through the order. See who's on a time lap at the moment and who's not. Rhea is 2 tenths down, and he's lost his front wing, interestingly. So he's certainly not going to be improving on his time. You see that SLR Connor is on. He's backed off with his lamps, probably saving the battery. And Philosopher's just come in. APS Greg. Very twitching, that Mercedes. Oh, and he spun it. He spun it. He spun it. He spun it. Thankfully, he keeps it out of the barriers, but I wouldn't have done him any favours because he's 9th position at the moment. And as we see down here, both Hyper and the Bullet are taking risks. They are the first cars onto the intermediate tyre. That may prove decisive as the backhand steps out for Hyper. It's gone so wide there. I wonder what he's doing there. Almost doing a reenactment of Damon Hill when he went that far off the spoon curve. Hopefully that's enough to clean the dirt and everything off of his tyres. That's new. I haven't seen the helmet cam before on this game. So this will be an interesting time because as you see on the timing screens, many of the drivers have now gone onto the tyres, but unfortunately already invalidated, it seems, for IIRL Hyper. Certainly a bit of an anticlimax there. Yellows within Sector 3. We're going to go on board with the Bullet instead to see what his pace is like on the intermediates. So stay off those curbs, or don't take too much at least. John B looks to have retired from this session. Put on 4 laps on the wet tyres. He's gone purple, I think, at the first sector. With a strong lap coming from the Aston Martin. Let's see how he takes the hairpin. Very gingerly coming out of that exit there, which you kind of need to be fair. Running the number 12 on this car, which belonged to Felipe Nasser, actually was the last person to run it in 2016, who drove for Sauber. I mean, they had a dismal year there, it had to be said. It's a 21-1 for the Bullet as it comes down to the final chicane. This looks like it's definitely going to be faster as he comes across the line. Now, what does he do? It's a 39.6. So Barbie will be a little bit more pace to find. Looks like those going onto the intermediate tyre is all starting to pay off. As you see, Sun God is on his... oh, and he's lost it. He's lost it. Goes wide. He gets dirt and everything all over his tyre, so that will not have done him any good. RSJ has invalidated his time. Velociver has just started his. And Mr. Wiggles is a second up on his time. He was a champion last time in 82. Goes a little bit wide. I mean, that undoubtedly would have cost him time. Hopefully the tyre will just have enough grip to make up for it. And TD reckons John will be out. But with 3 people having crashed out, I don't necessarily think that may be the case, but let's see what happens. Sam Ken is still out on the wet tyres. Yep, Wiggles is 2 seconds up on his time. So, if this all goes to plan, it should all be faster than John B's. What does he do when he comes across the line? And no, it's slower. Hyper's also gone P3, so looking more and more likely, unless they can find the grip, that John B may be safe. Lando, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. As Price to Bees gets the rear end very loosey-goosey, as Dan Ricciardo would say. We'll stay on board with the McLaren until he finishes his lap. He's 2 seconds up on his best, so that should put him ahead of John B. But he goes wide. SLR Connor goes fastest now with a 39.1. And David D, thank you for the follow. That's another follow for the IIRL League. Price the Bees goes second with that time. Hyper's time has been invalidated. Who is in the bottom still hasn't set a time. It's Lekka Russ. Ross J goes fastest with a 38.7. Coming up to the last few stages of this qualifying session, where if you don't get around now to complete out, those completing their time, getting around the start finish straight now will be able to complete their lap, but no more. So as John drops down to 7th, Platty now goes fastest with a 37.8. The times are tumbling down. Now, has John B played it too risky? Runner Mark is still on his outlap, but does he have enough time to get round? Run amok. Crucially, I don't actually think may have enough time to get through to the end. It'll be very, very touch and go. He'll be taking some life out of his tyres, trying to get round, but Philosopher goes 6th. Yellow's in Sector 2. Must be a Ferrari staying out of the way. Run amok's lap could be crucial. With 10 seconds to go, can he get round? He should be able to do it just in time. Oh, but that is bad. Did you see that? He's just lost... Yes, you see, he's lost his end plate on the front wing. And crucially, that is going to ruin Run Amok's lap. He's going to have to set a time with a broken front wing. But he's backed out of it, seems. And that is crucial. Crucial stuff. So John B is safe with that time. So that puts Jake Sharrock, TRT Lucifer, Run Amok, Appy, and Sean... Actually, no. Jake Sharrock is 15, but he's out of qualifying anyway. TRT, Run Amok, Appy, and Sean Gregory out of the first round of this qualifying. So how about that? That decides the first 4 to drop out of this qualifying session, with John B catching somewhat of a lucky break. But if it is a wet race, I'm not sure whether it is, that will save a set of intermediates for him. So there's top 7. There's 5 Brits in the top 7, so that's a good day for Britain nonetheless. But a good day for all the planet Earth at the top, with Platty in P1. We have, so Jake Sharrock will take no further part. TRT Lucifer, Run Amok, Appy, and Sean Gregory all out of Q1. I don't think it should be too long now before Q2 will get started. So those of you, if anyone's new joining, so if anyone's new to the stream and joining, do let us know who you are in the chat. So it'd be great to see who you guys are. So thank you all once again for joining. We're just waiting, and there we have it. The countdown for Q2 is underway. But now it's all done, apparently. So there we go. Q2 is underway, as you can see on the screen. It's still very light rain, so it's definitely going to work into John B's favour, because he saved a set of intermediates. They'll have one fresher set, but it depends how quickly this session dries up. As well, we've got 17 viewers currently, from what I can see. So, thank you all for joining. It's certainly a big number to stream with. It's certainly a pleasure to be doing it. So, thank you all once again. As you can see, we have Alfa Romeo, the McLaren, the Mercedes, who have the Red Bull out. Everybody looking to get that important banker lap in. Yeah, so we go. So the Alpha is out first of IIRL J. Wiggles, how you doing? Great to see you. You see how light the rain is. You could probably guess very quick that the track is going to dry out pretty quickly. The yellow in sector 2, so it looks like Hyper's had a bit of a moment. Yeah, he's around the other way. I could barely spot him there. It was almost like they were playing hide and seek. I don't know if you guys have ever watched Aravis videos on YouTube, but in Formula 1 2020, he used to get a load of people together to play hide and seek, which is not usually where you would think to play Formula 1 2020, but as Hyper gets out of the way, IIRL J is the first one to start his lap. Let's see what happens here. Looks relatively tidy, and why did it randomly switch to IIRL J? Because I had my feet on the pedals on my other steering wheel. Apologies for that. So Lando saying 10 place grid penalty for Hamilton. As we see IIRL J coming through to finish his lap. It's not quite up there yet with the fastest times that we saw last time out, but it's a 1 minute 40.4. Kind of sets the early benchmark as Greg now goes faster, so Warry wasn't a good lap. Sam Ken now goes fastest. Now see if the Ferrari behind him goes fastest. Not quite, but still within the 1 minute 40, so good lap nonetheless. And Lecarus, he goes 5th with a 41.5. Next to complete the... So we have John B, but he's not going to be... This one isn't going to be particularly competitive. I think this is the one that's going to make the difference. See how he takes these corners, the S's, which are some of the most favourite corners on the Formula 1 grid. It's this uphill left-hander. It's so easy to get the car wide and get, so far as you know it, you're onto the gravel. Oh! Oh, that is a big moment. Did you see that? has he got damage? Has he got damage to the floor? Car looks okay. Yeah, you'll see John B will have slowed down. What are the two Ferraris doing? They're coming into the pits. As for Platty, yeah, he's a second down, so he's not on a timed one right now. Price the Bees. We're all on board with him, and he goes a little bit wide in that McLaren. Looks relatively tight. As you can see on the front, you can see just with the skies going on your screens that the track really is starting to dry out. When are they going to make the switch onto the dry tyres? It seems that Rhea may be the first to making that switch in the Mercedes. In fact, yes, he's coming out onto the soft tyres. Now that's going to be very interesting to see what he can do. So 41.5 for the McLaren. What's it like for the Mercedes though? As Sam Ken is out. And that could be crucial for him because it doesn't look like he'll get through, which means he'll start from, I think, 14th place. But is the track dry enough for slicks? I think Lando, just been looking into that grid penalty for Hamilton. I don't think it's related to an engine change. It's one kind of reprimand away from being given a grid penalty. So there's no engine change. I think it was because of the reprimand he got from Mazepin. Have to be honest, Lando, you got me for that initially. I did fall for it initially, but it's yeah, now I was able to kind of disprove it. But he hasn't got a pen. He's on the brink. I think he's on the brink of one if he gets another reprimand. And Rhea doesn't think it's confident. He's not confident on those tyres, it seems. So he's coming in. Who else is out on an outlap? Looks like John B. Oh, the track almost looks bone dry. Who else is out? Bullet's out on intermediates, but if you look on board, that looks dry. I think everyone's really got to be thinking about going to softs. Platty is out on mediums. Greg should be coming out on mediums. John B is doing an lap on softs. And Bullet can tell that's getting certainly starting to lose grip, so he's coming to the pits to change tyres. Is there a problem with the timing sheets? Because it's saying that 31 seconds right at this point. I don't think it's true. And oh, and the Alpine has lost it himself. Yeah, so the Alpine could be in a little bit of trouble. Who else is out? Rhea's out on softs. And the Ferrari of Lecarus is also out on softs. Is anyone going to go onto the Is anyone going to go onto the mediums, rather? Not the intermediates. We're way past that point already. So as we know, Sam Ken is definitely not going through, but it will be a little bit hard to try and get some life into those tyres. Well, temperature, rather, to get some temperature into them because of the drying because of the track temperature not being as high as it once were if it were just a pure dry race. And these are the crucial laps. So the first of the runners to start is Rhea. We're going to go on board with the Mercedes. As the sun is visibly out. Yeah, it's about 3 minutes left. Stay off those curves, and that's a very dodgy line through that section of corners. But with everybody else out on dry tyres, this is the crucial thing. So you can go out, you can afford to make the mistake, I think, on your first lap, but the second lap is really where it counts, and he'll have time to get round to do a second lap. So get that banker lap in and make sure that you're covered. Bullets behind him in the Aston Martin. Just see, I think, SLR Colin, John B, Lecarus, Iros J, Platty, and APS Greg, who has gone for the medium tyre. It could end up being quite a brave decision. But everyone is also out on softs, so it could commit to a two-stop strategy during the race. What can Rhea do? What is the benchmark? Because it's a 28.8 for John B. What does Rhea do? A 29.9. So already the benchmark has been set. Looks like Lecarus has abandoned his first run and going out to do a second. What can Platty do in the Haas? It's 29.3. There's half a second down on John B. It's APS Greg. This is going to be a heart-stopping time. It's a 31.1, so that is not good, given that anybody else is still coming around to set their times. Price the Bees has had his lap time invalidated, so he's got a lot of work to do. And what can SLR Connor do in the Alfa Romeo? Doesn't look like it will be fastest, but 29.9, so that's good for 5th position for now. Songol goes 4th in the Red Bull with a 29.7. So Bullet and Hyper still yet to set a time. So there we go. Hyper is about to start his lap, and that will be it. And the Ferrari behind him as well, which I think is Philosopher. Yes, it's Philosopher. Bullet goes 4th with the 29.6. Seems to be yellow, so all over the track it seems, but Lecarus, what time can he do? And can Greg improve in the Mercedes, because he's on the cut-off point, and Lecarus is out alongside Price the Bees. The only person who can come out is Hyper, who's gone off as well, so Greg is safe. How about that? APS Greg has played a bold strategy, and it seems to have worked. Because Hyper's not going to improve having gone off the track. Price the Bees is in the pit. Sam Ken's crashed out and Leka Rus could not improve. So, APS Greg gets through on the medium compound tyres. So there we go, guys. That's all your places confirmed. These are the 10 that will go through to the pole position shootout, with Greg the only one to get through on the medium tyres. So well done to him. We have Leka Rus out in the Ferrari. We have Sam Ken, Price of Bees, and Hyper. And Jake Shark will take 15th place after crashing out in Q1. And here we are then, everybody. We are now at the final qualifying round before the race gets going. You see some of them are shifting up their gears, some of them being on first gear, which means they're coming out straight away. Thanks to some wet sessions, they will have plenty of dry tyres, plenty of soft tyres rather, to eke out their best times. As we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars are currently out. We're still waiting for... Yes, the Mercedes has come out, and I think we're just waiting for Song God in the Red Bull. And that's pretty much it. Yes, and there you go. Everybody now is out onto the track. See, Wiggles is the first one to go out onto the track, but Iros J is out. SLR Connor, I think, is now be the next one to take the lead. The no assist tier racer. Taking plenty of curve during the 130R. So we have Connor going around to set the first lap. Let's see how he takes the first corner. Drops it down to third, speeds up to fourth, fifth, then to sixth. And here come the S's. A little bit wide off the second S. Very well done there. Upshifts early to sixth. As the Haas slows in sector 3. 32.3 is the first time and goes a little bit wide there, but thankfully keeps his time. Upshift straight away to third to give him to cancel out any wheel spin, so that's a good exit so far for SLR Connor. He's come now down to the spoon curve. We're just going to go on board with him here. Drops down to fifth. And now down to fourth. It looks to have gone very well so far for the Alfa Romeo as we approach the very ballsy 130R. Does he lift? No, he doesn't lift at all. Drops down to second for the final chicane. Just gets the car under control. 4th, 6th, 7th. And what is the benchmark time? It's a 29.4. So that is the first benchmark time. With Mr. Wiggles doing a 30.0 behind. John B does a 30 dead. Greg does a 34. Iros J goes into second in the second Alfa Romeo with a 39.5. And the Bullet goes fastest with a 29.4 so far. Philosopher fifth. Who's coming round? What does Platty do? He does a 29.3 to go provisional pole. And Sun God, it looks to have crashed out, unfortunately. So that is a shame for the Sun God, who won't start any higher than 10th place. And Rhea, I think, has abandoned his lap. So Rhea will be trying again. I wonder if John B is on his... No, he won't be on a competitive time. I think this is a cool-down lap, I think, for everybody. Commiserations, unfortunately, to Sun God. So I think the first round we'll start to see everyone peel... No, Mr. Wiggles is going to go for a lap. And the Alpha, I think, comes into the pits. Both Alphas come into the pits. So the Alpha Tauri goes for one more lap. So he reckons he can improve. Oh, when he goes wide, he loses the back end. And that's rather ruined that attempt, it has to be said. So let's go on board with the Mercedes then of Rhea, who's going to be completing his first sort of competitive lap. What happened to 10.10? I know 10.10 is still around, but I think he's commentating on a few of the other tiers occasionally. So Rhea hugs the wall very closely and goes 5th with that time. Platty's not going to be improving on his time either. So I suspect we'll see everybody now back into the pits. See below, I think one of the Alfa Romeos is coming out, and that is SLR Connor. Sun God, commiserations there for you, mate. This is certainly a tough track. I mean, I've crashed at the S's way too many times myself, so I'm sure your luck will turn around for the better come to the race. You're starting in 10th, so plenty of opportunities there, mate. No one else has come out yet, leaving it very much to the last minute, taking advantage of the rubber that SLR Connor's going to lay down for them. As we've seen, Wiggles is on an outlap, John B is on an outlap, Greg is also on an outlap, and Iros J is coming out the pits as well, so he'll be on his outlap. Let's see how SLR Connor does. A bit gingerly that those S's there. Let's see if he's up on his best. No, he's down by 400. So that's very wide, and that's invalidated his time. He's going to have to back out of it now. There's no need to keep going. His time's going to be invalidated. Greg is also out on a timed lap. Let's go on board with him. Shame TD isn't racing, otherwise I'd take him out. Let's see how Greg does when he comes across the third sector. And no, this isn't going to be an improvement by anyone's standards. Who else? So we know John B's on a time lap. Philosopher's out on his. Wiggles is down on his, so he's not going to improve. Iros J's just crossed the line and done a 29.5. As the two alphas actually now together. So I think TD, well, you can remind him of that for the next race. APS Greg is into the pits, and looks like Wiggles may have had a moment in the AlphaTauri. What can the two alphas do? This is going to be a close qualifying session when it comes near to the end, until John B puts in a 28.5. What has SLR Connor done in the Alfa Romeo? Is he up on his time? He goes second. He's up by 2/10, but... Oh, and Iros J beats it with a 29.1. So by an alarming 5/10, it looks like John B has got pole position wrapped up. Philosopher's up on his time. The next one to complete his time would be APS Rhea. What can he do in the Mercedes? 29.7, which is only good for 6th. And Philosopher has had a moment in the Ferrari, so he won't be starting any higher than 8th. But it's up. Platty's up by 3/10. Can he find 5 more in the final sector? Would be quite unlikely. But where does this put him? Puts him 3rd. IIRL J looks to have got 2nd place all wrapped up. John B comes into the pits. SLR Connor is 2/10 down. But Bullet is up quite a bit on his time. What can he do? As he comes round to the final sector, he qualifies 2nd. That is a very close time. I didn't think anyone could get near that. So that is a brilliant time for the Bullet. SLR Connor pulls into the pits. So there we have it. That decides the order for this qualifying session. We have John B has taken pole position in front of Bullet, IIRL J, Platty, SLR Connor, Rhea, Mr. Wiggles, Philosopher, APS Greg, and the Sun God. Certainly a great lap from Bullet. That's it for qualifying. So that rounds up qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix, which is the next round of the IIRL 81 Racing League. John B takes pole position as probably what some people would have expected in the Alpine. Bullet goes 2nd, IIRL J 3rd, Platty 4th, SLR Connor 5th, Rhea 6th, Mr. Wiggles 7th, Philosopher 8th, APS Greg in 9th, and the Sun God will take up 10th place. And with that, guys, we're going to go to a 5-minute break. And it looks like somebody may have accidentally pressed, somebody pressed A accidentally by mistake, or either way, that's not typically the way we do things in the IIRL League. So not much of a break, everyone's going to go out onto their parade lap. So that's a 10-second time penalty for whoever pressed A, which I believe was told it was Lucifer. Oh, as you see, APS Greg has spun off there in the Mercedes. That's not going to help warming up his tyres in any way. So he's dropped provisionally to the back. He's the only one who could realistically put hard who can actually make a one-stop work, because everybody else, I think we'll just bring up the tyres. So we have Leka Rus, Hyper, Jake Sharrock, Run Amok, Sean Gregory and Lotus Runner. He's the only one in the top 10 who can make a one-stop work. Just coming up to the front. Seems very much the usual suspects acquiring up on top. So now we see drivers taking up their slots on the grid. That's still a lovely cam. I'm glad we finally got that. As we'll see behind, all the drivers now taking up their slots on the grid. And the bullet, where is... Okay, the bullet's in the wrong position. We got a new glitch here, everyone. Oh, and that's resolved itself. 5 lights are on. And we go underway for the Japanese Grand Prix, and IIRL gets a cracking start and takes the lead from John B. That was a brilliant move from the Alfa Romeo, who goes straight up into the lead, and looks like there's a bit of contact at the back. Lotus Renault and Price the Beast have unfortunately dropped down to the back. Doesn't look like they've got any major damage on them, so it looks like they'll be carrying on just fine. But what a start from the Alfa Romeo of IIRL, who has now taken the lead, crucially, from the Alpine. The top 10 running very much line astern. Greg has dropped down to 11th. Oh, now is fighting now with Jake Sharrock, who has made a brilliant start to get up to 10th. Overtaking the Mercedes of John B. So that's a brilliant way to make up for what was a not so good qualifying session, and what has happened to Leka Rus at the back. He has spun in the Ferrari. Thankfully there's no lasting damage, otherwise they would have had to throw out a safety car. But that's Leka Rus dropped all the way to the back now in the Ferrari as we catch up to the leaders. IIRL leads in front of the Alpine. We have Bullet in 3rd position, Platty in 4th, SLR Connor in the 2nd. Alfa Romeo rounds up the top 5. But more or less everyone is around on the first lap, and we're just going to see what positions have changed since the start. And here we go. So Lotus Renault gained 6, Sean Gregory gained 4, Appy gained 5, Hyper gained 2, and we already have Lucifer, Run Amok and Sam Ken all in the pit lane, which would be, I'm assuming, to take care of any kind of damage that they may have. Yellow's in Sector 1. What's happened there? Looks like Lotus Renault has crashed out. Is that going to bring out a safety car? In which case, it may the top 4 may have pitted more or less at the right time. Oh, and the McLaren has gone off now. Yes, and that's Hyper has also gone off in the McLaren. Well, to go on board with the... But no, it looks like they've done enough to get rid of that car without throwing out a safety car. So Lotus Renault obviously is out of the race, so commiserations to him, unfortunately. As we see, Bullet now comes up to the Haas, and they are only about a 10th away from each other. It's probably not close enough to attempt something into the 130R, but he may be attempting something into the last chicane, which he doesn't do. And virtual safety car has been deployed because TRT Lucifer has now crashed out of the race. And what was a disastrous race, it has to be said, for the Alpine driver, while his teammate is fighting the Alfa Romeo in front of him for the lead. Lucifer leaving the session, so it looks like the VSC shouldn't have too much trouble clearing up that damage and should get the race back underway soon. Sam Ken is probably timed out of the session. Hyper comes into the pits and he puts on the hard tyres, drops all the way down to the back as a result. So how about that? We have a brilliant start from the Alfa Romeo, taking care of one Alpine, whereas the second Alpine unfortunately is out of the race. Yep, I find the hards are not a good racing tyre at all. And there we go, that's the race restarted. So there's 5/10 separating the top two, and third and fourth are separated by a similar gap. What's happening behind SLR Connor? Here we have Mr. Wiggles, Philosopher, Rhea, Sungold and Sheikh Sharek all in close proximity behind the Alfa Romeo. Let's go back up to the lead. Is the leader close? Is the Alpine close enough to make overtake? No, he's not. And it'll be Linus Stern going into the next few sections of the track. You have to be very brave to pull out an overtake and anywhere else, to be honest, because this is a track. It's not necessarily known for brilliant overtaking, unless your name ends with Senna. And as Yellow Sector God and Sun God has retired from the race now, and a full course safety car has been deployed. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Was there maybe a collision between himself and Jake Sharrock? But safety car has been deployed. So I think what happened our race is that I don't know whether there was a little bit of contact between Jake Sharrock and Sun God, but the Red Bull is out of this race. What's happening here? It looks like we've got the leaders coming in. John B's in, Bullet's in, Connor's in. Which may be a problem. Bullet is staying out. But what is everyone behind them going to do? Oh, and it looks like what's happened between Wiggles and if I'm right, it looks like Mr. SLR Connor has actually jumped up, and that puts him into a net fourth place, whereas the Bullet, who has caught the safety car, has elected to stay out, which means he can stretch that softs a little bit further than when he needs to, but he can do a one stop. Whereas I think everyone else now is committed to a two-stop. I mean, they'll have the fresh set of mediums to do it because of the wet qualifying. So, as a quick catch-up, what's happened is that Runner Muck has come into the pits to put on mediums. I highly suspect it will be the end of the next lap where we'll have the safety car coming in. Aston Martin stays out in the lead with a few laps behind the safety car that will help him eke a few more laps out of his tyres. But that said, everyone around him is on fresher mediums and should eat him up pretty quickly. And this man, John B, must be frustrated having lost the lead. We had to say that was a brilliant start from IIRL. As you see on the track map, you will see Runner Muck is not too far away from the pack, but he's had a bit of a slow one, so he must have made a bit of a mistake. Hopefully he doesn't have any damage on his car. And here we go, up into the spoon curve. We have the Aston Martin safety car. Runner Muck has caught the back of the pack. So now, is the safety car going to be in this lap? Is it going to come in? I highly suspect that it will. Yes, it is. It's coming in at the end of this lap. Now, the Bullet has it all to do. And Price the Bees has got a penalty, looks like, for a severe collision with Sean Gregory. And Appy as well has got a penalty for collision with Runner Muck. So maybe those guys have damage behind them as the race gets back underway. And that is a bad restart for John B. Is he going to be suspect here to Platty? Is he going to attempt to move down the inside? Doesn't quite look like it. You have to be quite brave to pull that off. Sean Gregory now in the pits. And SLR Connor has been overtaken by Mr. Wiggles, who on fresh softs has brought him a lot more grip. And for now has given him track position. And the Bullet is now having to defend from IIRL. But this is working very much into John B's hands, as now the slow Aston Martin is backing him up straight into the Alpine's clutches again. He's got to clear that Aston Martin very, very quickly, and I suspect if he stays with him very, very closely through the end of the spoon curve, it should be down to the 130R. Let's go on board with him to see what kind of run he gets. And Hyper has had yet another moment in the McLaren. He's not close enough. The Alfa Romeo is not yet close enough. He's going to try and move down to the outside of the chicane. No, he's not. Let's see, behind John B lurks in the distance. He's got overtake on. He has got to pass him now. Goes round to the inside, and he's got through. The Aston Martin stays on track. Now this extra lap could be very crucial for IIRL to pull out a gap between himself and the Alpine of John B. Those tyres starting to go off, and John B not wanting to try anything too risky behind should work out into his hands. But that, as I say that, the Alpine has gone through. Yes, he has gone through. And Hyper comes in to retire his car from the session. And it didn't take long, certainly, for the Alpine to get through. And through he has got. You can just see how much that Aston Martin is struggling on those softs. It doesn't look like a wise decision now to stay out on those tyres. But now he's got to defend, because this is all for position here. He'll be on a different strategy now, but this is all for position. It won't be long, I suspect, before we see the Haas coming through. They go on board with the Uralkali Haas car, which looks brilliant, but doesn't quite look... Well, for some reason, it's an American car, and it looks Russian, which, as I say, is a massive middle finger, I reckon, to the Cold War. Iros J takes the fastest lap. Platty uses his overtake to overtake the Aston Martin, and he goes up into third. So behind him, Connor. It's 4/10 behind Mr. Wiggles, who still has those life of the soft tyres working with him. Sean Gregory's down in 16th. And Connor is not too far. Oh, and that's a bad moment there from Mr. Wiggles. It's 4/10 now, the gap between those two. It's up at the front. The gap between them has come down to just 4/10 of a second. Jake Sharrock is obviously coming to put on the hard, so he's fighting closely with Leca Russ in the Ferrari. Gap is very close between them two. We're just going to go back with the leaders. 4/10 between them, which is absolutely nothing. And Sean Gregory's had a moment. He's gone off in the Aston Martin. That would not have helped him out at all. So there we go. He'll be deploying his overtake with 2/10. I sense this is the Alpine's chance. He's got DRS open now. Is he going to make him go round to the outside? No, he goes down to the inside and he overtakes him. He switches back. He switches back. Oh, was there contact? No, there wasn't. John B has retaken the lead in what was an absolutely cutthroat battle. The Alpine has regained the lead. You would have just seen that on your corners. You just the brilliant switchback. Oh, and what's happened to Platty? Platty has spun off, and has he got damage to that Haas? Not quite, it seems, but that's not a good run for him. And Leca Russ also has gone off. But that was an intense battle between the two, and it doesn't look like there's any signs of it easing up, because Ross will be coming back at the Alpine. Just got to stay close to this last few sectors here. Yellows for Sector B. Run Amok has retired from the session, but is that going to bring out a safety car? And yes, it is. So that has spared John B for now. This may be a good time for those on the softs, particularly Bullet. They won't lose as much time coming in to change tyres. And the Alpine comes in to... No, he fakes it. That SLR Connor goes up into third rather. Philosopher has actually come in to retire. So that is a shame for the Ferrari. It doesn't look like Platty has damage. It looks like he just lost the car. Loads of drivers now coming into the pits. So it looks like everybody except the top 3 have changed tyres. So we see Gregory has come in. Phil wouldn't continue without the drink recommended. Shake my head, Ferrari. Well, that's it sounds very much like Ferrari. Sounds more like a Kimi Raikkonen problem than a Ferrari problem. But that's something that Kimi definitely will get in retirement, is the drink. I wish they put that on his car and said, we will leave you alone, know what you're doing. I suppose while we're waiting for the race to get back underway, I think it's a good subject that Take Her Easy brings out. So let's talk about Kimi Raikkonen for a moment, because he is a driver that everybody is going to miss because of his very matter-of-fact, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing stuff. He really is one of a kind, and he's a driver that we're not really going to see again for a very, very long... In fact, we won't. I tell you that, but we won't see anyone else really like Kimi. I think my favourite Kimi moment has to have been at this very track in 2005, where he came from 17th to overtake Fisichella on the last lap in the Renault to win in the McLaren. It just shows that back in the day when Kimi was behind the wheel of that McLaren, the guy was absolutely demonic behind the wheel. You can argue his star kind of dwindled a bit on his return, but the thing is, Kimi is a driver that everyone's going to love no matter what he does. He gives no BS, as you would say, Lando. No rubbish, just very candid, matter of fact. And all around, just an absolute pleasure to have on the grid. So what's happening here? Looks like the safety car could be coming in this lap. And that's a brilliant restart that John B has got. Oh, no, the safety car hasn't. So ignore that, guys. Bit of confusion there. It looks like the safety car is still out. So maybe Sean Gregory didn't quite catch it in time. And some positions changing as well, so I'll have to reorganize themselves into whatever position they were. So we've got one more lap behind the safety car. And APS rear looks to have gotten a penalty. So one more lap behind the safety. So there we go, guys. Confirmation that safety car will be in at the end of this lap. Now, it looks like the Alpine has already just dropped it. And that's a good restart he's got. Yes, that's a very, very good restart. So 7/10, so it hasn't quite dropped him there. But let's see what IIRL can do to bounce back over the next few coming laps. As we see Platty, I thought it was going to go around the inside of Mr. Wiggles there. We see Jake Sharrock is in 7th. As we have yellows in Sector 1, Price the Bees is retired, and Platty is spun yet again. And I thought you guys are going to want to say, Mr. Wiggles is also retired. With 2 cars out, that's already 8 people have retired from this session. Now, I wonder, is this going to throw out what I think it's going to throw out? No, surprise, surprise. No safety car. As the gap evens out between 8 tenths, as Platty drops now to the bottom. It's very interesting because the top 3 are on 8-lap old mediums, everybody else are on new tyres. Let's see what happens here. There's only 12 people now left in this race. Let's see as John B sets the new fastest lap of a 31.2. IIRL J still behind him in second place. As SLR Connor not too far behind him either in 3rd. As the Bullet also catching up to the Alfa Romeo in 4th. And Sean Gregory overtakes Lecca Russ in the Ferrari. The 2 Mercedes still in this race, P6 and P7, fighting between themselves. Now the key thing here is how quickly the Alpine can pull away. He's bridging close to a 2nd here. Sam Ken drops to the back. At least for Platty, he's spun at a place where he's still not too far away from the back, so still a chance of him getting points. So we're going to go on board with the Alpine. Just look behind him to see how the Alfa Romeo is doing. Just about a lap away from DRS being activated. You can see where probably IIRL is using a little bit more overtake. But as you'll see, coming down here, it's 5 tenths, which is going to be very, very close to see Constantino working there for you. As IIRL J now sets the fastest lap. As everything behind them seems to be evening out, we are watching a duel for the lead between IIRL J and John B. John B seems to have had quite a lot of pace throughout all scenes. Sean Gregory, that's a very valid point. He was nearly a lap down, and now he's back up to 9th place, which just shows why you just never give up at all, but not in an Eddie the Eagle sort of way. We'll just watch these two, as behind, the Bullet is catching up to SLR Connor. I like how the attention on this game is given, so when there's a little bit of dirt, you can actually see it reflected on the bodywork of the cars, instead of just being just yet another clean model. So I'll give the game credit for that. But that was a bad exit from IIRL J. He's down to below a 2nd. The Alpine will know it, so he'll be safe from DRS this lap. So we'll go on board to the Bullet. He's only 7/10 behind. I don't think that's close enough to make a move. That's what's happening behind. We have Greg, Appy and Platty. Platty has overtaken Sean Gregory. As the two Haas cars are tangling with each other now. What a view we're getting for this fight. All of them have got DRS. Platty goes round to the outside. Gregory is boxed. Can he sweep round the outside of Appy? No, I don't think he can. Still hangs about. The two of them are still fighting, going through the S's, and Appy has come out just on top. But, oh, so close, all that fighting there. Really, really great stuff to watch, and fair play to everybody there for keeping it clean. As Platty begins his comeback against APS Greg. You may remember started on mediums, but it doesn't quite worked out to his favour with all of the safety cars involved. Let's go on board with these two now. It looks to be the closest gap. What a fight. I agree, our race. What a fight indeed. It's 5/10 between these two now, but that was a bad exit from the Mercedes. It's pointless overtaking coming up to 130R because the DRS detection point is coming up here, which leaves Greg vulnerable. Hopefully the best that he can hope for is a 6th place, but oh, he spun yet again. Unbelievable, but he's resetted there, so he can't do that, which means he'll be incurring a penalty. That's lap 18 Platty. Fortunately, he cannot do that. So yet another swing of the pendulum, as it were. SLR Connor, I have to say, is doing a brilliant job holding off the Bullet, who is on fresher tyres. So he's definitely becoming a pick for driver of the day at this rate. He's not quite on the back of his teammate. He's doing a brilliant job in holding off the Alpha. I mean the Aston, rather. As a gap in front evens out at 1.4, 1.5 seconds. Now, what could they do from a strategy angle? Because 12 laps on mediums, yeah, they've had safety cars. It'll definitely be hard to get round to the end if it's racy conditions like this. I wonder if any of them are actually going to come in. As we look here with Bullet versus SLR Connor, he'll have DRS. Is the Aston Martin going to make the move? He goes round to the outside. Will he have it done by the time he goes into the first corner? Yes, he does. And that was lovely from the Bullet. Oh, and SLR Connor spun. And more unbelievable scenes here. And that is such a shame because he put up a brilliant defense. As IIRL Appy passes Sean Gregory, and that is such a shame for SLR Connor, who put forward a brilliant defense, but unfortunately has damage to his front wing, so that'll be the time for him to pit. And Greg has also had a moment in his Mercedes. Platty has come in and changed tyres because of his contact earlier, but oh, and John B has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, so that is very much going to play into IIRL's hands. He's just got to stay with him there. And what will he do in terms of a strategy? He'll want the win, but to make those mediums last, I know IIRL will have the same problem, but that's not good for John B. He's got a penalty now. It's 2 seconds is the gap. At this point in the game, I don't think it'll be wise for IIRL to come in now. SLR Connor, I think, has got to come into the pits because he has a damaged front wing, and used medium tyres, which I think have seen better days. And yes, he does come in. And we see Sean Gregory now passing Appy for 6th place. Lovely bit of move there. The Aston Martins are certainly having a much better race this time round than they have done in previous races. It's still pegged between the top two. 14 laps they have done on medium compound tyres. This is going to be such a tense fight. Can they get the tyres through to the end in a reasonable state? How far are they going to push? How far are they going to push each other? This is going to be hard, I think, for IIRL to pull off. This is going to be hard, rather, for John B to pull the extra 1.5 seconds that he needs, as APS Greg goes off in the Mercedes. Now, wasn't quite the best exit there for the Alpine, which, as it stands at the moment, IIRL will win. But who knows how this race will end up at the end, as we have Appy 7 tenths behind. We're going to stay on board. We're just going to see, with 8 tenths behind, the DRS is not as powerful as you would want it to be. It's very much like Zandvoort in that way. As 2 seconds is now the gap between IIRL and John B. He's just got to stay within 3, and he's got the win. Now, with the bullet having cleared, SLR Connor, I wonder if he can make an impact on the cars in front of him, because he is on fresher mediums that have no doubt will certainly go to the end. But to pit now would deny both IIRL and FRA John B a chance at victory. But he has got 7 laps to pull an extra second, which is certainly possible. I think the overall gap is between about 4.6 between the Bullet and IIRL as he falls back to 2.4. The Alpine is building the gap it needs to. So look down the order to see what's happening there. We'll have Platty on fresh softs, who surely will make quick work of APS Greg, who unfortunately had another spin. His race hasn't quite panned out the way he would have wanted it to. SLR Connor not too far behind either in the second Alfa Romeo, who, despite a brilliant defence, sadly lost that, his position, and he lost grip, and SLR Connor does the fastest lap as Platty breezes past APS Greg. It doesn't look like Bullet is making many inroads into IIRL or FRA John B, despite having the fresher rubber. It just shows how far these two really are pushing each other. As John B goes past the 130R, it's 2.8 seconds the gap. He'll surely do it, and he has done it. He's pulled out the 3 seconds that he needs. So IIRL has got to pull something brilliant out of the bag, or at least, or at the very best, nurse his tyres and take 2nd place. As behind the field, you'll see SLR Connor has made a move on APS Greg and has taken 11th place. There's yellows in Sector 2, and that is Greg yet again having gone off. But thankfully it's not enough to throw out a safety car. It's 4 seconds now as the gap. And once again, he's just been yet Yes, again, just another commanding drive once again from John B, who once again has been able to take everything that was thrown at him and just take everything on the chin and put forward a brilliant drive. And even with the penalty, he's done more than enough to clear IIRL J. In the last few laps, we're not quite sure whether we're going to get a full-on safety car. It's coming up with 4 solo laps to go. I wonder whether the top 2 now will actually be able to nurse those tyres well. I mean, it's certainly been a great drive from the pair of them, with 8 retirees so far. Platty recovering back to get the final point. Right now, depends how quickly SLR Connor can come at him. Because you have to remember, the Alfa Romeo has got the fastest lap, so that's another point. It feels like John B's winning every single one, but let's not take that away from how good he's been driving. As soon as he's gotten it, he is certainly dominating. I think that's that kind of driving is something certainly to be celebrated. I mean, oh, what's happened here? Looks like Appy's had a moment, and looks like he stays in 7th for the time being. Now he's got Lecarus behind him in the Ferrari. Yellow's in Sector 2. What's happened there? Might have been a moment for Sean Gregory. Now the Haas is under pressure from the Ferrari. It's SLR Connor. It's now 6 tenths now behind Platty. And very quick to be making a move, as the leaders have come through to start the lap 25. Not long now until it's going to be the end of the race. Let's see if the Alfa Romeo can pass him. We go on board. 6:10 behind might be a little bit ambitious. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get the move done here. 6:10 behind is just too much. As Platty now has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. But they're so close, those two. Both are on softs. SR Connor's maybe a few laps younger, but it's very, very close between these two, and it's good for Connor because if he gets into 10th, and he's got a 3-second penalty. In fact, I'm just going to run through the penalties here so everyone can see what the score is. So this really is for 10th place, and that extra point for SLR Connor. Looks like Jake Sharrock is going to hold on to 4th place. Rio will drop back to 6th unless Appy can make some inroads. But he's not going to attempt to move down here. Sam Ken is not too far from these guys either. This looks like Connor's best chance to go for an overtake. But has the Haas in front of him got DRS? No, he doesn't. Oh, and I pressed the wrong button. Sorry about that. And it looks like Sam Ken's going to fall behind. Oh, and Platy is spun again. And that effectively hands 10th, and once he overtakes Sam Ken, 9th position to Connor. And he's crashed out. Platy is now out of the race, and I think it's way too late in the day to be throwing a safety car. It's the last lap, for crying out loud. As Estelle Connor is now in 9th. Score 3 points for that extra point for fastest lap. We're going to go on board with the race leader. If he makes a single mistake, he'll lose. If he loses a second here, he'll lose his time. He'll lose his lead, rather. But I have to say, the top two have done very well to nurse those medium tyres. But it's been yet another commanding performance from John B. Comes round to the hairpin. Doesn't show any signs of slowing. She'll be watching every single corner that he takes, because you don't want to be adding even more time to his race. The Bullet hasn't made much in terms of inroads, but Jake Sharrock has done well to recover to 4th place from crashing out in Q1. As we see the Alpine comes round the 130R. And he's come round the final corner as he rows down to the start-finish straight. Yet another win for John B. He wins the Grand Prix, beating Iros J by aggregate time by 1 second. So we have the Bullet takes 3rd position. We have Jake Sharrock, who comes across in 4th. So I have to say, brilliant recovery there. APS Rhea comes through to take 5th. With Sean Gregory taking... Oh, and Sean Gregory actually takes 5th because of his unserved penalties. APS Appy takes 7th. Lecarus takes 4th. SLR Connor will come through to take 9th, and I think the extra point for fastest lap. We'll have Sam Ken rounding them off in the Red Bull. As APS Greg is the last to come across the line in a Mercedes, and this race has not played out the way he would have wanted, particularly after a bold strategy call in Q2 that paid off for him, starting on mediums. But 11th is probably not what he bargained for. John B is a man on a roll. So there we have the end result, everybody. We have John B, who wins yet another race in 81. Iros J takes 2nd, and Bullet rounds off the podium in 3rd. Both done well to have non-penalties, and in Iros J case to nurse those mediums. Jake Sharrock takes 4th. Sean Gregory takes 5th. Rhea is in 6th position. Appy takes 7th in the Haas. Lecarus scores 8th for Ferrari. SLR Connor, subbing for 1010, takes 9th for Alfa Romeo. Sam Ken is in 10th, and to round off the point scoring positions. APS Greg, Platy, Wiggles, Price the Bees, Philosopher, Run Amok, IIRL Hyper, Sun God, Lucifer, and Lotus Renault do not score, but APS Greg made it to the end, whereas the rest unfortunately had retired. So that rolls up the end of this particular racing stream. So it concludes another round of the IIRL Assist Tier 1. It is round 15 next time round. So thank you all very much for coming on and joining me on this particular stream. It's an absolute pleasure having you guys on board. And I will be seeing you guys hopefully next week to go over the next round. Thank you all so much for joining. I'll see you guys next time.